A warm welcome to Disky Talk with Luyolo. If you're tuning in for the very first time, I do ask that you please subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you've been a part of this journey, I hope you thoroughly enjoy this episode. So, on today's episode, I discuss all things Dstv Premiership action as I have a pre-match tactical analysis of Kaizer Chiefs versus Richards Bay. So when you do have a look at it then, the red team will represent Kaizer Chiefs and then the blue team will represent Richards Bay. So coming up then into this encounter, when you have a look at Kaizer Chiefs then, the last time out they did lose 4-0 against Mamelodi Sundowns at Loftus Versfeld. And then when you do have a look at Richards Bay, they are currently undefeated within the league, having picked up 2 wins and 1 draw so far, and they haven't conceded as well. So the last time out then, we did see them beat Sekhukhune United 1-0. So when you do have a look at it then, we will start with Kaizer Chiefs. When you have a look at Kaizer Chiefs then, they have been playing then with a 4-3-3. And with their 4-3-3 then, within the heart of midfield, we've seen then Arthur Zwane does like to go then with 2 number 8s, with Yusuf Mart then at times against Maritzburg, he was the one who started the deepest. However, whenever Cole has started, then you've seen Cole start the deepest. You've had Sitebe and then you've had Mart as well. But when you do have a look then at the personnel, in goals, you do have Bruce, and then at left back, you do have Riv Frosler, and then as the left-sided centre back, you do have Zita Kwinika. So when you look at Kwinika, this is a player then who has been quite key for Kaizer Chiefs within the art of defence, as I think he's been one of the better players for Kaizer Chiefs within their first 3 games. He's been the more consistent with regards to his performances, and as much as, yes, they did concede 4 against Mamelodi Sundowns, but if you do have a look at all 3 games, I would say that he has been then one of their better defenders and one of then their more consistent players. And then when you do have a look at the right-sided centre-back, so against Sundowns, they did start with Ungezane, but he then had a very horrible first half where then he did make that mistake where Serino was able to pounce and he was able to score, and then he also then gave away that penalty. So we have seen then Njabulo Ngcobo come in as the right-sided centre-back. However, one thing that is key then that I'd like to touch on is the principles of build-up, because then when you do have a look at how Kaizer Chiefs are trying to impose themselves with regards to how Arthur Zwane has mentioned how they're trying to play in the style as well, he does mention that they are looking to start from deep. So when you do have a look at it then, when you are looking to build up from the back, it does become quite key then that you have defenders who are very comfortable on the ball, especially then the centre-backs. They are very, very key, because then the first ball that goes out would normally go out to either one of the centre-backs. What's key then in this regard is that they're able then to comfortably play out from the back. They're able to progress the ball. They are press resistant. They're able then to invite the press and then beat the first line of press as well. Whether then they are good at maybe dribbling with the ball at feet, being able to carry it and beat a marker, or they're able then to ensure that they can play those penetrative passes where then they are very comfortable on the ball, and they can also look to maybe find their fullbacks whenever then they are put under pressure. So when you have a look at it then, with Zita Kwinika, he is a right-footed player playing as a left-sided centre-back. So with him then, if teams look to press him adequately, so what they would do is they just ensure that they close off that channel. And when they close off that channel, it becomes very difficult for him then to play that pass, because naturally he's not left-footed. So his body orientation is already that of a player then who would be more square on, more so than opening up his body. Unless then there isn't any pressure, then he can take it on his left foot. But if pressed, the first instinct is to look then to play it that way, because that is where he's most comfortable on. So it would be then his right foot in that sense. And the trajectory of that pass from a right-footed player, what you would see then is that because it's being played by a right-footed player, sometimes it would be like that, or it would be like that. But if it is a left-footed player playing that pass and he plays it into his right-sided centre-back, that pass has that angle, which is a better angle for the right-sided centre-back to be able then to control the ball comfortably and take it onto his right foot. Yes, Zita can look to play it in front of him, but because he's naturally right-footed, he will then trust his right foot in times of pressure. He won't always then be looking to play with his left. If he's not under pressure, then he can look to give you that angle and that trajectory of the pass, because then he can look to play it with his left foot. But a lot of the times, if you put him under pressure, he's going to play it like that. So when you do have a look at it, then at times Kaizer Chiefs have struggled in build-up, because I think when you have a look at Kwinika and Ngezane, they're not the most comfortable on the ball with regards to building up, especially Ngezane. So they're not then specialists with regards to looking to build up from the back. With Njabulo Ngcobo, he is a lot better in this regard, and maybe then that could change with regards to how Kaizer Chiefs have been looking to build up. Maybe they could improve from that regard, because he is press resistant, very comfortable on the ball, and what he also has in his armor then is this pirouette that he would do. He did it a lot at Swallows, where he'd shape up as if he's passing to the keeper, and then he'd just do a 360 turn and then look to evade pressure and then look to play out. So he is a lot more comfortable with regards to how then he looks to build up, and also considering then that he is right-footed. So the natural orientation and the natural body posture then in this regard would be a progressive touch and a progressive first touch, because the ball going into him takes it on his back foot and then he can move. With Zita, like I mentioned, he is right-footed. So when he doesn't have pressure, then he can look to take it on his left foot, but a lot of the times he's looking to come back on his right foot. We do know that there is Dube as well, who can play in this position. They've also signed Edmilson Dove, so he can also look to fill up that position as a left-sided centre-back, or what you could see is Kwinika going as a right-sided centre-back and then Dove coming here. But we also do know that Dove can play as a left-back, and Reeve Frostler has been playing as a left-back, as a right-footed player. So when you do have a look at this defense from Kaizer Chiefs, from a build-up perspective, it's been quite unbalanced with regards to all four players being right-footed. So they've struggled with regards to the angles and the passing channels in build-up phase, because all players are right-footed, and they do then tend to bring the ball onto their right foot under pressure, which then would become a regressive touch as opposed to a progressive touch, especially on the left-hand side. So within this left-wide channel and this left-sided half space, you're looking for a player to take it on their left foot, which then is a progressive touch, and looking then to play it. So I do know that I've spent quite a couple of minutes with regards to explaining that, but I think it is quite key then for viewers at home to understand then the principles of build-up and why sometimes certain players are limited in build-up phase. But when you do then move on then right along and have a look at the right back, at right back against Sundowns, they did start with Solomons. I mean, they did start with Njabulo Blom. The previous game against Maritzburg, they started with Solomons. So Solomons and Blom have been alternating within this right back position. We also did see then that in second half, Blom did move into midfield. Solomons went to right back. So at right back, they could either have Solomons or they could have Blom. It's also subject to Dupree's fitness, because Solomons did start in a wide advanced position. And then when you do then move on then right along within the heart of midfield, like I mentioned, you've had Cole, you've had Mart, and then you've also had Sitebe. But when you do have a look at this midfield, what's key then with regards to a midfield is the midfield personalities, especially if you play in midfield 3. It's quite key then that you have complementary midfield personalities, where I think that you can't start all three of these players together because they're very similar. From these three, you need at least one who is a lot more forward-thinking with regards to their passes, who's a lot more penetrative and progressive with regards to how then they look to carry the ball. So I would say then it is better then that Kaizer Chiefs go with a double pivot of Mart and Sitebe, and then look to start Nkosimpile Ngcobo. So when you look at Nkosimpile Ngcobo, he does then become quite a specialist in this regard, because then this is a player who offers you positional and qualitative superiority with regards to how he looks to position himself and take the ball laterally in between the lines. Also then his creativity and his skill set. So when you do have a look at Nkosimpile Ngcobo, this is a player then who can become a final third specialist with regards to his skill set. So when you have a look at his qualities, first of all, this is a player who's got that penetrative penetrative pass. So he's got that line-breaking pass, that penetrative pass that can split the defense, where then he can create a big chance. He does also then have very good technique with regards to being able to take shots at goal from range. We've seen him score goals like that. We've seen him pop up into this pocket of space where he's been able to bend balls then either into the bottom corner or the top corner. So that's also another quality that he has. Also then when you look at it, he does also have very progressive passes. So whenever he does drop deep, he does tend to look to have that progressive pass, which then can take the team from consolidation phase and take them into final third. Whenever he does find himself deep in his own half, he can get it from build-up phase and look then to also advance the team. This is a player then who offers so much quality for this Kaizer Chiefs side. However, we do know that he hasn't started. Arthur Zwane has favored then a midfield three with two number 8s, but I do think it is time for Nkosimphihle Ngcobo to start, because what he also then offers you is in relation to the other players. So you'd have let's say Dupree is fit, you've got Dupree there, you've got Billiat, and then you have Dolly. So what tends to happen is that Dolly tends to drop deep if it is a midfield three like that, because then there isn't much creativity coming from the midfield. You also do have Matlo, who did start against Maritzburg United, who also had a good performance. So what tends to happen is that without Nkosimphihle Ngcobo, you see Dolly tending to drop a lot deeper, because then he takes that responsibility upon himself. Then what happens is he only has then two runners in front of him, or two attacking players. But with Keegan Dolly, the closer he is to the box, the more dangerous he is, because he can score goals and he also does offer that assist as well. So when you do have a 4-2-3-1 setup and you have Nkosimphihle Ngcobo, it does push this front three a lot closer to the box. That is where you want them, because then that is where then they tend to be a lot more dangerous. However, let's have a look at Kaizer Chiefs with regards to their offensive scheme and what they would do. So with Kaizer Chiefs then and their offensive scheme, ball side fullback, let's say you've got Blom looking to offer the width there. So Richards Bay, what you would see then is that they'd go to a 5-4-1 block, and it can also become a 5-3-2 block, but let's say 5-4-1 block. What you would see then is that Shini would look to creep up in there, and then you would see somewhat of a 3-2-5 offensive scheme. At times, one midfielder can also look to creep in, and then you could see somewhat of a 2-2-6, because then with Frosla, sometimes he does tend to invert because he is right-footed, so he can occupy that half space because he is comfortable there. So a lot of the times what you will see from Kaizer Chiefs is that against Sundowns, what we did see then was that they managed to get both fullbacks high and wide, and then you saw it being much more conservative within the art of midfield. So then it went to a 3-2-5 with regards to the offensive scheme. So you can also see that then from an offensive scheme perspective. But what we've also seen from Kaizer Chiefs is that they do look to press teams high up. And I do think that they'll be looking to press this Richards Bay side, especially considering then that Richards Bay do look to play out from the back. However, how do they do that? So with Kaizer Chiefs then, with regards to how they look to press, they do look to press with a very narrow 4-3-3. So what you would see then, let's just get Richards Bay there. So that is the shape that you'd see. So what you would see then, if Richards Bay are looking then to play out from the back, goes that centre back, what you will see then is Kaizer Chiefs then looking pretty much to press with a very narrow 4-3-3 block, ensuring then that the men which are part of the front line with Dupree, Billiat and Dolly, that they can use their cover shadow to ensure that they block those passing channels and angles into the midfield, where then Richards Bay midfielders can't get onto the ball. So normally then there you would then have Umhlongo, and you have Matebula as well, who look to build up for Richards Bay. You also have Dabuga, who can also play within the art of midfield. You also have Nkaiso Zungu, so they will be looking to press like that. At times, they also do sort of look to press sort of in that shape, you know. And so, for example, they can also look to press then in a 4-4-2 block type shape. So very narrow like that, where one midfielder will be looking then to join Billiat up front and looking then to institute the press. However, a lot of the times it is a 4-3-3. Coming up into this encounter then, when you do have a look at it, I do think that within the heart of midfield, Yusuf Mart will be quite key then with regards to what he offers Kaizer Chiefs then in possession of the ball. We did see that he does play those beautiful diagonal balls where he's looking to stretch opposition, and also then with regards to being able to offer then those legs within the heart of midfield as well. I do think that Nkosimpile Ngcobo could become quite key, because then when he came on against Mamelodi Sundowns, we saw a difference in approach with regards to how Kaizer Chiefs were looking to penetrate into the final third. They looked a lot better. But when you do have a look at Kaizer Chiefs, what they've really struggled at is set pieces. They've been quite poor in that regard. Also then, when you have a look at the fact that without Nkosimpile Ngcobo and without a focal point, at times, yeah, their play within the opposition half hasn't looked as structured, because what teams will do, or what Sundowns did, was just ensure that they can sit in a defensive block. So what Richards Bay could do is, this is what you could see, them sitting in their 4-5-1 block, and just allowing Kaizer Chiefs to play sort of in front of them, where the two fullbacks are high and wide, and they're just playing in front of them. They switch the ball wide, ensure that they close down the crossing angle, because even then, if they are looking to cross, they don't have height. They don't have a target man up front. So those are some of the things then that have troubled Kaizer Chiefs, not having a striker, not being clinical then within their set pieces, as they've been very, very poor from that regard. However, let's move on then and let's have a look at Richards Bay. So let's just move them. So when you do have a look then at Richards Bay, they've done very, very well within the DStv Premiership, as they've been able to keep 3 clean sheets, and they're also a side then that are tactically versatile, because we have seen them play different shapes. But the last time out then against Sekhukhune, they did then start with a 3-4-1-2. So we'll have a look at it from that perspective. We do know that this can also change then to a 3-4-2-1, or it can be a 3-4-3. So when you do have a look at it then, in goals, they do have Salim. When you have a look at Salim, this is a keeper who's been doing very, very well for this Richards Bay side. He's made very key saves, and he's a very, very good shot stopper, as I think that a couple of saves he's made do go down as they are contenders then for save of the month so far, because I think he's been quite phenomenal in that regard, and keeping then that clean sheet for Richards Bay. So this is a keeper then who's very, very good. Also very good at being able then to claim some of those crosses, and also very good then at judging the flight of the ball when it is those crosses and some of those set pieces as well. Moving on then right along, when you do have the back three, the last time out they did start with Abel Mabaso. So when you look at Abel Mabaso, we do know that this is a very versatile player with regards to his ability, very comfortable on the ball, very key then when it comes to being able to progress the ball within those deep right-sided pockets of space for this Richards Bay side, especially considering that they are a ball-playing side. They do look to play from the back. Then you've got Ntetwa, who plays as a central centre-back, who does then look to offer that extra layer of defence. Very, very physical and very, very strong specimen. Also then a threat within the opposition box. So he can also look to pop up in the opposition box with regards to the set pieces for Richards Bay. As the left-sided centre-back, you do have Mabua. And then moving on then right along within the heart of midfield, they do then have Mhlongo. And then they also have Matebulo, who plays a double pivot. So with these two then, I would say that they're very good then with regards to being able to take the ball off their centre-backs, and then also offering then that option within the heart of midfield. However, my criticism, and especially when it comes to Mhlongo, is that he plays a lot more sideways. So he doesn't always play that forward pass, which then has been my criticism of Richards Bay. So they do look to build up. Sometimes their build up tends to be very slow and tends to be very much sideways, and they do take long to progress the ball in that regard. But when you do have a look at it, you also have Matebula, who has impressed me within the heart of midfield. With him, then, he also then does have very good range of passing with regards to him being able to spread those passes. He can play those diagonals. He is a bit more progressive in that regard in comparison to Mhlongo. But the pair of them within the heart of midfield, I would say they understand each other, and they do take turns with regards to building up. So sometimes it is sort of a 3-1 build up. Sometimes it can be a 3-2 build up. And then moving on then right along, you do have Kanyiso Zungu there. So he is then obviously then their most creative player with regards to offering then his ability as a playmaker. So when you do have a look at it, I did mention that you have Ndivum Dabuga, so he can also come into the midfield. And if he were to come into the midfield, I would see him slotting then alongside Matebula, as I think Matebula is the better option in comparison to Mhlongo. So you could have Dabuga also coming in there, but let's go Mhlongo, let's go Matebula, and then you do also have Kanyiso Zungu coming in there. So with Kanyiso Zungu, we all know his ability and how then he's able to manipulate the ball within tight pockets. He also has a phenomenal passing range. Sometimes he does tend to look to drop deep. When he drops deep, he can spread those wide balls into his wing backs. He is also then a player who can find that penetrative pass in between the lines. And I think he is better suited playing as a deep laying playmaker as opposed to him starting in this position. So is also then another option of him maybe starting a bit deeper alongside Matebula, for example. And then you could always bring in Memela, because Memela has signed for them, and he did come on then against Sikukune, where he did have a couple of very good touches. And then they did start with Makateng, and then they started with Tsundwane. But we did see Tsundwane limping off, so it could be quite interesting to see if he does make it in time with regards to his fitness. And then key players then, because then they offer the width within this Richards Bay side, especially then when you play with the back three. The two wide men become quite key then from an offensive and a defensive perspective, because offensively they look to offer you the width. So on the right hand side you do have Barnes, on the left hand side you do have Msani, who's currently on loan. So when you do have a look at them then, this Richards Bay side, more or less what they would look like then with regards to the offensive scheme, it does become a 3-2-5 offensive scheme, with both wing backs looking then to push high and wide and offer the width. And then you've got the two midfielders in there. But like I mentioned then, this Richards Bay side do have a number of options. So you could start with Luvuyo Memela. They do have Tabua as well, who could always come in. You do have also then Yanele, who did come off the bench, and he got the winner as well. So that is also another option that they could look to go with. That is this Richards Bay side with regards to how they look to play. Within the heart of midfield then, I would say then a key player for them, especially then because it's more or less that shape, you know, especially against the Kukune, that's what they look like. I would say then two key players for them coming up into this encounter then would be Matebula, and then it would also be Kanyiso Zungu, especially considering the amount of control they offer this Richards Bay side within the heart of midfield, how then they're also looking then to progress the ball for this Richards Bay side. However, it will be quite key then that they are cautious, and that whenever then they are in possession of the ball and find themselves in Kaizer Chiefs half, that they're able then to ensure that they have an adequate rest defense. Otherwise, what happens is that if they lose the ball in this situation, with this picture, there's so much space in behind. And when you have a look at that front three for Kaizer Chiefs, they have a lot of speed as well. So it does make it quite an interesting encounter then, because you do have an unbeaten Richards Bay, and then you've got wounded Kaizer Chiefs, which lost 4-0 against Mamelodi Sundowns. A Richards Bay, which is doing quite well with regards to how they've started. They've been quite solid within their defensive structure. So tactically, they're also very organized. So when Kaizer Chiefs do have the ball, like I did mention, you could see them retreating then into those defensive blocks, where then they'll be looking to ensure that Kaizer Chiefs can only play in front of them and can't break them down. It will be a very interesting encounter, as both sides then will be looking then to play that carpet football. And this is an encounter then which will be contested then at the Moses Mabhida Stadium in Durban, as it will be a Kaizer Chiefs home game, but they are taking it to Durban. So ladies and gentlemen, when you do have a look at this one, I think it is a hard one to call, especially considering then that you do have the qualitative superiority with Kaizer Chiefs, and then you also have the defensive unity, and you also have the organization, and you do have those very good ball players within this Richards Bay side. So when you do have a look at this encounter, I do think that this will be an encounter which will be quite open, where then both teams will be looking to play. I will say that Richards Bay will be a bit more cautious, especially when you look at that speed of Kaizer Chiefs, and they could then allow Kaizer Chiefs more ball possession, and then looking then to ensure that they can hit them on the counter attacks and be successful then with those offensive transitions, because then that is also another way then to nullify Kaizer Chiefs and deny them space. Just look to sit off them and allow then Kaizer Chiefs to have the ball, because then we do know that, like I mentioned, they don't have a reference point up front. They don't have a target man. So it will be difficult if they're looking to play those crosses. They do have Mteta, who can deal with those crosses. They do have Mawo as well, who can deal with those crosses aerially. And also then when you do consider it that they're also very comfortable on the ball. However, how I see this game playing out, yeah, will be a very interesting game. But I do see then a goal-scoring draw for this one. However, at home, do let me know, what do you make of this encounter with Richards Bay coming up against Kaizer Chiefs? Richards Bay so far are unbeaten. So they've won 2 and they've drawn 1. With Kaizer Chiefs then, we do know that the last time out, they did lose against Mamelodi Sundowns, and previously they did win against Maritzburg United, and then they lost against Royal AM. So when you do have a look at this Kaizer Chiefs, this is a Kaizer Chiefs side then that are still struggling with key aspects of how they're looking to play. With Richards Bay, they look very, very organized. They also look very good in possession of the ball, and a side then that also look to pick their moments with regards to when do they press, when do they look to sit deep as well. However, I really do hope that we do see an entertaining fixture between these two sides, where we will then see an open game. However, at home, do let me know, what do you make of Kaizer Chiefs versus Richards Bay? And then when you do have a look at it then, both sides have quality players that can always come off the bench. For Richards Bay, I did mention Yanele, who did come off the last time, scored the goal. You've got Memela if he doesn't start. You've got Ntabuga as well. For Kaizer Chiefs, you've got Nkosimpilo Ngcobo if he doesn't start. You've got Sikhota, who can come off the bench. You've got Ntuduzi Shabalala. You've got Khatebe as well, who can also look to come off the bench. Matlo as well, if he has recovered. Do let me know at home who wins this one and who are the key players coming up into this encounter. Thank you very much for tuning in to yet another special episode of Diski Talk with Liolo. Signing out.